Welcome to Motor Track Test, where we take the latest and greatest performance cars to the limit at the challenging Bryant Park Hill Climb circuit. We'll do a deep dive on the car's dynamics, try the different drive modes, and then wrap it up with a track score. Today's track test involves the Audi RS5 Coupe. I'm going to quickly run you through the important specs, get behind the wheel to see how it performs on track, and then set a lap time. Hit the time codes below if you want to skip ahead, and don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with any cars you want to see us test on track. The latest RS5 uses a 2.9 litre twin-turbo V6, developing 331 kilowatts and 600 Newton meters. That's attached to an 8-speed automatic gearbox and all-wheel drive, and it weighs 1,685 kilograms. These wheels are 20 inches in diameter and wrapped in 275/30 tyres. Now for some reason, there's Pirellis on the front and Hankooks on the rear of this car. Anyway, this car is also fitted with the optional carbon ceramic brakes with 400mm rotors and 6-piston calipers, which are a snip at just $13,600. So let's see if they're worth it. Before I talk about this RS5, I want to spend a moment talking about the last one, the first one, that had a cracking naturally aspirated engine, revved over 8,000 RPM, it was a V8, had a dual clutch gearbox, and was actually pretty focused, pretty sporty in its approach. This car could not be more different. It's got the same badge, but in terms of philosophy, Audi went a very different direction with this latest RS5. So instead of a high revving naturally aspirated engine, we've got a twin turbo, heaps of torque, smaller engine, and the way it approached the philosophy of the chassis is different as well. So instead of like really sharp, sporty responses, this car's actually quite relaxed, and it makes for a really, really good road car. It's got decent ride quality, the torque makes it more relaxing to drive, it's more economical of course as well, but this is still an RS5, it's got an RS badge, so it needs to work on track. Otherwise you'd just buy a regular S5. So the question is, on a track like this, is it fast? Is it fun? So let's find out. First thing is, I've got it in dynamic mode, so the sportiest mode, and that's already a philosophy shift because in some Audis, selecting dynamic would turn the steering really heavy, lots of effort required, and the suspension would get rock hard like a skateboard, be jumping over all the bumps, whereas this, there's a little bit more weight to the steering in dynamic, sure, but it's still light, still accurate, it's still easy to use, doesn't require much effort, and the suspension does get stiffer, but I've still got a little bit of compliance. So, is it enough to make sure this thing works? Well, what have we got? So we've got 331 kilowatts and 600 Newton meters, and this is an awesome engine. It's got unbelievable pickup. For a turbo engine, it's got great response, revs hard, revs to almost 7 grand still, and it is fast. Sounds good too, especially for a V6. Gearbox, torque converter auto, so it's not as quick as a dual clutch. That is a benefit around town because that slow speed operation is smoother, but out here the shifts are still quick but can be a bit hesitant going back down to second. It's a bit conservative in its shift speed, but overall still pretty good, still plenty quick when you need it to be. It's just that downshift is a bit of a problem, but then you got so much torque. Look at that, come out of there in third at 3,000 RPM and it hauls. Woo-hoo-hoo. So at the moment I've got in an ESC Sport, which is pretty good. It's letting me still drive hard, but it is still nibbling around the edges, especially if a wheel kind of gets unloaded. Here I'm going up this corner, back down to second, and if it senses some wheel spin like that, it does cut in. So I'm going to just turn that off and see how it goes when we're on our own. There we go, got that off. Let's see how we go. So Audis have a bit of a reputation on track as being pushy and understeery and a bit dull, whereas that is not the case with the RS5. Partly because Audi's figured out how to do all-wheel drive now. That might sound strange because they've been doing all-wheel drive for about 40 years, but old systems, Haldex-based systems, would feed too much power to the front and you'd sort of get pulled out of a corner, whereas this system is 40/60 front to rear base split, and it can send up to 70% to the front or 85% to the rear. There's also a sport diff, sport LSD in the back of this thing, which can also split the power left or right. So there's a whole lot of complex stuff happening in this car, but from the driver's seat, all you really feel is the power goes where it needs to. Brakes are really good. You can feel those carbon ceramics. They've got a really good firm pedal, no sense of fade. So one of the best things about this RS5 is the way it turns into a corner. As soon as you turn the steering wheel, you've got confidence that the front end is going to stick. And even then, if the front end does slide wide a little bit, you can just lift the throttle slightly and it tucks like that. Just had a lift of the throttle on the way into the corner and it slid the rear around. So that helps you point towards the exit of the corner and get on the throttle sooner. So here we go, turn in, turns in strongly, back off a little bit, there we go, tucks the nose in, get on the throttle. Now, if you pick up too much throttle too early, it will pull wide. You will get a bit of power on understeer, but as long as the nose is stuck, it'll slide out of the corner nicely. It could be a little bit more, like A45, even the R8 will rotate on the throttle better, and that's probably the one thing it's missing, is that ability to sort of steer the car with the throttle. It turns into the corner really nicely, gets really good rotation, especially in these tighter corners, but then you still got to wait a little bit for the throttle. In an ideal world, I'd get back into the throttle, it would continue to rotate the car, and I'd be out of the corner even quicker. But still, it's a pretty impressive package. So let's stick the helmet on, stick the stopwatch on, and see how it goes on a lap. The Audi RS5 Coupe set a best lap time of 1 minute 6.7, a time that was relatively easy to achieve, but a lack of front grip did hold it back slightly. The RS5 Coupe is massively fast and capable, but the things that make it such a great road car, and it is a great road car, do handicap it slightly on track. It could use a bit of a quicker gearbox, some more tyre grip, and some more rearward bias to the all-wheel drive system, and that's why it gets a track score of 7.5 out of 10.